Hi everyone, happy Halloween. So I am starting my tutorials back up again. So this week we're going to have 7 days of Halloween spooktacular, and it's going to be Devilish Dinner. So every day is going to be a progression of something that you would use for a Halloween feast. So today I'm going to show you how to make this mummy plate. And we're going to make eyeball utensils. So here is the fork, and here is the spoon. I realize the fork is really ugly, that's why I started off with the easiest stuff, so we can progress to the slightly harder stuff by Sunday. So you will not need a lot of tools in order to make your mummy plate and eyeball utensils. You'll obviously need white clay, black clay, silver clay in any brand. You'll need a ball tool or just something to make a hollow in your clay. I've also have a smaller ball tool just to pick things up and flatten things out. You'll need a X-Acto knife. You will need a blade, and if you have an oval cookie cutter. If you don't have an oval cookie cutter, you can use a round cookie cutter. If you don't have either, you can simply use your hands and flatten and shape until a perfect circle, or an almost perfect circle, or you can use the cap of like a water bottle or something similar. So basically, these are all the tools that you'll need in order to make your mummy plate. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and stay tuned because like I said, this whole week is going to be Halloween spooktacular, 7 days of Devilish Dinner. So at the end of the 7 days, we're going to have everything you need for a Halloween feast. Alright everyone, thanks for watching and let's get started. Okay, the first thing you'll want to do is take your white piece of clay and start rolling it out to the desired thickness. There's no rhyme or reason in terms of how thick you want to make it. You'll see I made mine just a little thick, but I would suggest making it a tad thinner. Once you've done that, take your cookie cutter and cut out your shape. Set aside the white excess clay to roll out your strips for the mummy. And I'm just smoothing out the edges because you don't want any rough edges. Okay, now I rolled out my white clay in the pasta machine at setting 9. If you don't have a pasta machine, you can just roll it out really thin. And what I'm going to do now is take my blade and start cutting the strips for the mummy. Now, in terms of width and length, it doesn't matter, and in my opinion, the more haphazard, the better. So you'll see I'm just going to start cutting it, and like I said, length and width doesn't matter. In fact, I think I probably cut just a little too much, but it's better to have more than not enough. And if you like those ruffled edges or torn edges on the very two sides, you can also use that as well. That actually looks good. Going back to the plate, what you'll do is take your large ball tool and create a dent or an indent in the center of the plate. Then what you'll do is move it in a circular motion till you make the dent larger and larger. Now don't make it too thin in the center, otherwise you'll create a hole. So make sure you're constantly moving that ball tool. But you can omit the step if you just want a flat plate. Then once you're done, just kind of fix it a little bit. And you can actually omit this step if you want, but I just wanted to make it look like a true plate. But you're going to be covering it with the strips anyways. Now what you'll do is roll out a black piece of clay to a somewhat thin piece, and it doesn't have to be large because we're just going to be using this as the contrast for the mummy eyeballs. So as you can see, I'm just cutting it down. There's really no neatness to it because I know I'm going to be covering it up with the strips anyways. So once you have that piece cut out, set aside the black clay because you'll be using that later for your eyeballs, and then place it somewhere in the center of your plate. And again, it could be anywhere you want the eyeballs to kind of, where you want to place the eyeballs, I guess I should say. So As you can see, I'm just putting it in the center. And then now what you'll do is take your strips of white clay and start placing it on your plate. And I'm not pressing it down yet because I just want to make sure that I have it set up correctly, or the pattern I should say, but I am cutting the excess on the sides. So just keep doing that. Again, just overlap it. It doesn't have to be uniform, doesn't have to be perfect. Again, just trim it down because you'll want to overlap it to the back of the plate as well. You don't want any hanging right on the edge there. So again, as you can see, once you're done, just take the edges of the strips and press them under the plate, and there you go. Now what you'll do is take 2 small pieces of white clay and roll them into very small balls or ovals, and then place it on the black part of your plate. Then once you've positioned it to where you like the eyes to be, you will take a ball tool, either a large or a small, and slowly press that into the plate. If you don't have a ball tool, you can actually use your fingers. You're going to repeat this step for the black part of the eyes as well. Just make them a little smaller. And again, don't completely press them in until you've positioned them correctly and you like where they're at. Place it on the white part of the eye and either use your ball tool or your fingers to press it down. Now take a black piece of clay and roll it into a very thin snake and place it on your plate to make the mouth. As you can see, I did it so that it's slightly askew because, again, it doesn't have to be perfect and you can make it any way you want. This is an optional step, but what I'm doing is taking my blade and lightly cutting the strips to give it that aged and weathered look. To make your utensils, take silver or gray clay and roll it into a long snake. Now cut them in half and trim them to the desired length, one for the fork and one for the spoon. And try to keep them at the same thickness, but it's not really a big deal if you don't. To make the spoon, I took a small piece of silver clay, rolled it out into a little ball, and then flattened it. Now what I'm doing is taking a small ball end tool, and again, similar to how I made the plate, in a circular motion, just make an indent, and then attach that onto your stem, but make sure you press on it so that it attaches firmly and securely, and then shape it to your desired width, length, and size. Don't play with it too much, but of course that is my downfall. Then once you have it to the desired size that you want, just put it aside and start on the fork. Okay, so to make this really ugly fork, just again roll a small ball, flatten it out, and use your blade to make 2 slits and shape it to the desired size. Again, I use my blade to cut it down and make it just a little more square. Now for the eyeballs on the utensils, I just took some white clay, rolled it out into a snake, and made different sizes and pressed them onto the fork and the spoon. Then with the black part of the eyes, you'll go ahead and repeat that step as well. And once you've positioned it to where you want it, press it down using your fingers or the end of your ball tool. Now what you'll do is bake your mummy plate and utensils based off of the package instructions and the thickness of your creation. Glaze if you want, and here is your completed mummy and utensils. You can always add the red veins to the eyeballs on the utensils if you want. Thanks everyone!